Hey, I'm back. And those of you that are following my book journey, the read of the game, the book looks like that. It can be purchased on my website at consciouspress.net. Now, thus far, we've read and completed up to chapter 5. We're going to start chapter 6 now, and let's get right into it. I don't want to hold you guys up too long. Chapter 6. At a branch of the First Fidelity Bank in Marlboro, New Jersey, Carla sat in a rather elaborate office behind a large oak desk. She was looking through a few files that were on top of her desk, but Goldie seemed to be all that she was able to think about. She removed the gold-rimmed glasses that she was wearing and reared back into her desk chair and lost herself in thought about him. She didn't know what to think, and he hadn't called her anything. All of a sudden, Hank, Carla's boss, had entered into the office in his usual feminine gestured way, carrying new individual case files. Still, upon seeing Carla, he immediately asked, "Are you all right?" Carla mustered up a slight smile and replied, "I'm fine, thank you. Why do you ask?" He placed the files down on top of her desk. "Well, this morning it seems that you had the glow of love. Now you seem to be unsure. It seems you have some sort of doubt. Look at you, you're deep in thought as we speak." Carla asked, "Hank, do you think I'm really that transparent?" At that moment, Jill, a co-worker and friend, who was sitting there, eavesdropping in the office, she placed the ink pen down on top of her desk and slid her desk chair out from underneath her desk into a position where she could join both of them in conversation. Hank turned and looked over in her direction. Carla also looked over at her and asked, "Well, Jill, is it that obvious?" Jill smiled. "Carla, now, sister girl, you know that you haven't been yourself the last couple of days or so. Not only is it obvious, why don't you just give it up? Come clean." Carla rolled her eyes at Jill, and then she stood and began to clear the contents of her desk for the day. As she placed the contents of her desk into various drawers, she replied, "And just what do the two of you know about love anyway?" Jill took both of her hands and turned them inward toward herself. "Who, me? What do I know about love?" There was a pause of silence. Carla looked over at her and said, "Jill, you're divorced." Then she looked over at Hank. "And you?" Hank interrupted her immediately and snapped his finger with every word that he stated. He said, "Missy, don't you dare." Carla smiled as she reached down and retrieved her briefcase from down alongside of her desk and said, "Look, I know your concerns are genuine, and the two of you are my closest friends." A staring match ensued between the three of them. She continued, "Well, I better run. It's been a long day." Hank asked, "Will I see you tomorrow?" As she began to make her way through the exit of the office, she replied, "Of course." Jill looked over at Hank and said, "I still can't believe she asked us that question." She recited the question mockingly. "What do the two of you know about love anyway?" Carla, overhearing Jill as she made her way through the office exit, she turned and looked back at her and said, "Jill, it was a rhetorical question." Meanwhile, as Goldie stepped onto Teresa's doorstep, he removed his small key ring and opened the front door to her place. As he entered the apartment, he noticed Teresa sitting there on the sofa watching television in the living room. She had a silk sheet laid across her lap. Goldie thought, that's exactly what she felt like inside, silk. Teresa asked, "How was your day?" He replied Baby, in my line of business, it can always be better. Then again, I believe that's my incentive to wake up every morning. She smiled. I laid your bathrobe and slippers out for you. If you're hungry, I can put you something into the microwave. As he made his way over to the sofa and kissed her on the forehead, he replied, Baby, I'm not hungry. I ate something a little while ago. Teresa stood up off of the sofa and said, Okay, then I'll run you a hot bath. Goldie smiled. Baby, make it a shower. She left the room to get everything set up and ready for her man's shower. He stood there, watching her as she left the room, thinking, life sure is grand. After which, he walked into the bedroom and removed his clothing. He slipped on his bathrobe and slippers and headed for the shower. He wasn't in the shower 2 minutes before Teresa had slowly eased the shower door open and joined him under the pulsating shower head. He placed her in front of him and watched the water as it began to travel in and around the curves of her beautiful body. She stood there seductively. Goldie thought, wow, as he felt his mind and body begin to come alive. She moved toward him and began to kiss him around his neck and down his chest. He moaned, and as he began to run his fingers gently across her back, Teresa kissed him on his navel. And before he knew it, she had taken him deep within the warmth of her mouth. Goldie exclaimed, baby, as he began to run his fingers through her hair. He loved it when she took the lead in their sexual escapades. It excited him. After a few moments, he pulled her up to him and placed her hands onto the wall beneath the pulsating shower head and arched her back and slid down deep inside of her from behind. As the water had begun to run through her hair and down her back, he began to ride her like Roy Rogers rode Trigger. Hard, long, steady, and fast. That evening, when Carla got in from work, she decided to take a nice hot bubble bath, have a glass of wine, and catch up on some long overdue reading. She was in the bathtub fulfilling that planned evening when all of a sudden the doorbell rang. She thought, Goldie. It had been a while since she had heard from him. Carla jumped up out of the bathtub, grabbed her bathrobe, and rushed through the living room into the kitchen, where she stopped and got herself together before making her way around the kitchen table to open the rear door to her condominium. She opened the door, and to her surprise, there stood the delivery man from the flower shop. Carla's face displayed her disappointment, and yet she was relieved at the same time. After the delivery man had given her the once-over, he said, I have a delivery for this address. There's no card. Will you sign for it? Carla sighed and replied, yes, as she walked over to the kitchen table and retrieved a pen and a couple of dollars out of her purse to show her appreciation. After the transaction, the delivery man thanked her and handed her the box. She closed the door behind him and held the box close to her heart for a few moments. Then she rushed out to the kitchen table, where she opened the box, and to her surprise, the box contained 12 long-stem white roses. She thought, there's beauty. They are beautiful. No one had ever sent her roses before. She rushed over to the kitchen window to see if she saw Goldie's car. She didn't see it, but she knew that the flowers were from him. After showering, Goldie and Teresa retired to the bedroom, where she now laid with her head on his chest. She listened to his heartbeat. She lay there wondering what made him tick. She also wondered what she could do to have him fall deeply in love with her. She felt as though she had run out of options. She had tried everything and was willing to do anything. Now, it wasn't that Goldie didn't love his women. Hell, he was crazy about them. But even more important, he knew what he had to do to keep them. He knew that women loved a man who could pay the bills, if not with his money, with hers, but with his thinking. He knew that they needed love and guidance, but even more important, he knew that they wanted to be understood. They are the most emotionless animals on the planet, and everything they needed, he represented. Goldie broke the silence. He asked, "Teresa, are you awake?" Teresa raised her head off of his chest and looked up into his eyes. She replied, "Yes, I was just lying here thinking." He asked, "And just what were you thinking about?" Teresa smiled and replied, "Us, Goldie." "Well, let's think about us together, but later. Right now, I would like to talk about Joe and what I intend to do." She asked, "What's your plan?" He smiled. "I plan to act as if I know nothing. I plan to act none the wiser, as he is since the day we met. I also plan to thank him for the gift. And in the future, I want you to continue to play your role in any gifts, advancements, anything. I want it immediately communicated to me. I have a plan," he replied. Teresa asked, "So Goldie, what's the plan?" He replied, "None the wiser, baby, none the wiser." After a few moments, Goldie sat up in thought onto the edge of the large bed. Teresa asked, "Baby, are you okay?" He leaned back onto the bed and kissed her on the forehead. He replied, "Baby, I'm fine. I'm going out into the living room and sit in my easy chair. I have a few telephone calls to make, and it seems to be a beautiful night to do some thinking." Meanwhile, Carla was lying in bed, playing with and admiring her roses. When the telephone rang, she reached over onto the nightstand and picked up the receiver and heard the voice that she had been dying to hear. He said, "Hey, Dow, how are you?" Carla replied, "Oh, I'm fine, and you?" Goldie smiled. "Well, Angel, I'm a whole lot better now that I've heard your voice." She seductively replied, "I got the roses that you sent, and they are simply beautiful. Thank you." "Hey, a rose for a rose. Listen, I wanted to talk to you about Saturday." Carla interjected, "I knew the roses were for something other than you just being a romantic. You can't make it Saturday, can you?" There was a pause of silence. Goldie wanted her to waddle in her thoughts for a few moments. Then he replied, "Sure I can. Hell, I called you because I need you for the whole day. I have something planned. Can you take off?" She smiled, a sigh of relief. "Well, hell, I've gotten sick before." "Very good then. I will see you Saturday morning. Your place or mine?" "Mine, Goldie." "Okay, baby. I have to run. I'll talk to you later." The line went dead. And that's the end of chapter 6.